Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our November board meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know this is not our normal night. I'll just explain quickly how we got here. Our regular meeting would be on the 11th. I believe it was the 11th, which is Veterans Day holiday, and Township is closed. So we went down to the 13th and then found out that this room is already taken for the 13th for the Corps of Engineer annual meeting on the airport and contamination. So then we had to move again, so we ended up here on the 6th, which is appropriate as the day after the election, and we have some things to talk about on that. So that's how we got here. Additions, deletions. I have an addition. I'd like to add action item number 2, the purchase agreement on the Grosse toll bridge.
Second.
Comments or questions regarding that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have a second action item. Like a motion on the agenda.
Motion to approve?
We need to, the motion has to be the agenda as amended.
A motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We have our agenda. We are a board of 6 tonight. Jameson has been excused. All right. Moving right along. We have no presentation, so we have public comment on agenda items. Do we have anybody in the audience that can you look around?
Nobody.
For me? Nobody? All
They're
right.
there, but they're not coming
No,
up.
there's nobody there. Okay, good.
Raising a hand.
All right, we're moving on. Consent agenda, David.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion for the approval of consent agenda 24-062, which consists of the following: minutes of the October 28th, 2024 regular meeting, minutes of the October 28th, 2024 closed session, approval to process and distribute payments through November 29th, 2023 MERS application for a waiver, fire commission appointment, a lot configuration number 387, and check registers dated through October 31st, 2024.
I'll support. Any comments or questions regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, we have a motion for approval of consent agenda 24-062, which consists of the minutes of the October 28th, 2024 regular meeting, minutes of the October 28th, 2024 closed session, approval to process and distribute payment through November 29th, 2024, fire commission appointment, lot reconfiguration number 387, and the check register dated. Check register dated through October 31st, 2024, and 2023 MERS application for waiver. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Our consent agenda passes. Which brings us to our action items. First action item is a motion that the Grosse Township Board hereby approve to begin the required 63-day public review period and to authorize the distribution of the master plan draft to adjacent communities and relevant agencies.
Support? I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to just let Ross speak to that.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As was mentioned in the motion, I just wanted to reiterate, this is just the authorization of the draft to the public. There was some confusion at the Planning Commission level on Monday. We're not approving any final plan here. This is simply to release to the public to provide feedback on recommendations in the draft. So tonight I'm just going to provide a brief overview of everything that we've been working on, what the master plan is, what are the contents within it, what are some of the recommendations, and next steps moving forward. So a master plan is a guidebook for Grosse decision makers based on the community's vision of the future. It includes actionable steps and helps officials decide how to direct township funding, what initiatives to take on, and list tangible goals. The master plan is intended to be a usable reference document, easily readable and accessible to all residents. And just a side note, this was partially funded by the Michigan Economic Development Corporation and the Michigan State Housing Development Authority. So a little bit about the process and what we've been working on here a little bit over a year now. We began by analyzing existing conditions to understand what is happening in Grosse. We conducted research to understand the external factors impacting the island. We reviewed past plans and studies to build on the prior work of township staff, experts, and residents. We examined trends and best practices to understand how things are changing. We gathered community feedback to document the experiences of islanders and assess their wants and needs. And then we took into account stakeholder input to understand internal township structure. So why are we updating now? Well, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act provides a legal basis to update the plan. At least every 5 years, Planning Commission must review the existing plan to determine whether to amend or adopt a new one. The last master plan was adopted in 2002, which exceeds the typical lifespan of 20 years for this document. And in June of 2023, Planning Commission and Township staff determined that a new plan must be adopted in order to sufficiently plan for the next 2 decades. We also noticed that at this time, a year ago, there are some common trends going on in the community. For instance, the median age for the township increased from 43 in the year 2000 to 52 in 2020. Right now, we are the top 15 oldest community in Southeast Michigan, and with that comes a lot of things that that we should really look at. For instance, our population age over time decreased from just 2010 to 2020, and the most population lost by age was from 5 to 24 years old, and also the 45 to 54-year-old brackets. The most population growth by age from 2010 to 2020 was seen in age groups through 65 to 79. We also noted that student enrollment declined. Student enrollment is projected to decrease over time with population. This not only impacts our students, but also staffing needs and facilities with the closure of Meridian Elementary and more. Enrollment in 2002 was a little over 2,000, whereas now it's 1,565 and projected, according to SEMCOG data, to be at 1,389 in 2045. So with those two kind of data points, we can kind of we should look at what housing needs are needed on the island. When most homes were built, the majority of homes in Grosse were constructed in the 70s or before, when the average household size was 4.5, where households are now now at 2.5, indicating a market for smaller homes potentially. Our rental rates are much lower than other communities. So this is just data that came through here that kind of just highlights some potential issues in our community, but maybe they're not issues at all. So we found that a lot of our residents own their homes, which is great, but perhaps we could offer some more rental options on the island as well. And our housing age, just to highlight something here, So majority was built before 79, but we see a huge boom here from 1990 to 1999. And that's when the 2002 plan was adopted. The open space program was developed and new zoning policies were enacted. And then we see here from 2000 to 2009, 2010 to 2019, it just keeps kind of trailing off there. So what have we been doing since September of 23? We've been reaching out to the public a lot. We've had survey responses totaled in 2,500 total online and in-person responses. We've had almost 300 virtual comments online. We handed out 500 direct mailings, 300 handouts, 20 posters, 8 social media posts, and 4 red alerts to get the community involved in this process. We also hosted 4 virtual roundtables, 6 in-person workshops, and 4 in-person meetings with Planning Commission, and then there was that one joint Township Board meeting that we had with Planning Commission quite a while back. And all this data, all this work provided us with one draft for review. It also gave us a Commerce Park redevelopment strategy, a Macomb Street redevelopment strategy, an investment and business attraction strategy as well, and much more data. So what does our plan cover? So it covers land use goals, and this goal is to maintain well-connected neighborhoods, minimize impacts on the surrounding natural environment, and make it easier to build development that matches the community's needs. As for housing, maintain Grosse as a wonderful place to live by promoting a variety of housing types for residents throughout their lifetimes, especially that older demographic, who are, all the time in the building department, we're seeing folks want to downsize or have a separate unit outside their home. And how can we help accommodate those folks where they don't have to go purchase a whole parcel of land and redevelop? And then connectivity and mobility, maintain and enhance a transportation system that offers safe and efficient mobility for all users and abilities. Economic growth and prosperity, support a prosperous local economy through development, placemaking, and small business supports. We also want to steward the land and the waters of Grosse while providing opportunities for community members to connect with the natural environment. And then we also want to continue to provide a high quality of life for current and future residents through quality township services, transparent governance, and a shared community identity. So as far as the adoption process goes, Planning Commission made their recommendation to you all on Monday. Tonight, we're here to authorize the draft to be shared out to the community. There will be a website link where folks can click on it, read it, and then submit their comments right there online. And then that would start potentially tomorrow or Friday if you all do approve. And then during that 63-day review period, we'll hold Planning Commission meetings where we'll invite the public out to speak on behalf of the draft as well. And during that entire time, we'll be incorporating edits. So we'll be actively adding comments, making edits to the plan, depending on what the public says. And then we're looking for, once the new board takes over in late January, early February, but it can take even longer than that if we really want to take our time on this, for the adoption. So it would go to Planning Commission and then back in front of the new Township Board then. Then lastly, what happens after adoption? We have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that are listed in the plan. Various departments, commissions, committees, community stakeholders will collaborate together to accomplish these goals. There will also be zoning updates. We're really going to focus on Macomb Street. We feel like that really should be the main priority here, to update its zoning. It's been about 20 years for that business district, for our business district, since we've really updated the zoning code there. And then future zoning updates will be performed depending on community needs, budget, and township capacity. And then annually, we will review the master plan and kind of do a check-in on how we've been implementing these goals and strategies on an annual basis. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ross. Any comments or questions from the board?
Got one, unless you guys got something down there.
No, go ahead.
Just got a quick question, Ross. And I apologize. I was trying to take notes here. Did you say in 1970, 4.5 in each household was the average, and then you went down, and now it's down to 2.5?
Yes.
Was there a year on the 2.5 that was taken from?
That was 2020 decennial census.
Oh, just
data.
2020.
Yep.
That's all I need. Thank you.
Yes.
Other comments? Go ahead.
Well, obviously, I just want to say, having taken part in the process, you and your team did a really good job of engaging a lot of different stakeholder groups in the community. I know there were meetings held here. There were people on Macomb Street. You reached out to people throughout the entire community. And the team that you worked with, our consultants too, were extremely professional. The events were interesting because they did, you could see the diversity of opinion in the people attending. You know, it wasn't always everyone was of the same mindset. Different people had different goals or different expectations. One person's successful event was another person's problem, you know,
Right,
the way
right.
that goes. So, but it's good that all that gets aired and gets transmitted into this document for people to comment on. And so I'm very excited to see it go forward. I was part of it 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago when we started this. And that's what got me into planning in the first place. But it's just really cool because it brings all the different elements of the community together. And so I just want to congratulate you and your team on really doing a good job with this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would certainly back that up. Being part of this and watching it, we did get a very good consultant on this. They did a nice job. I think I'm going to say your team because it's Ross's big project. Yeah, it really did a good job of getting the community involved because this is the community's plan. It's not the Planning Commission's plan or Ross's plan or the board's plan. This is supposed to be the community's plan. And always one of the fears with that is that we don't get enough of the input from the community, mainly because it's hard to get them to get involved. And you guys have done a good job with all the ways that were there for them to be involved. They didn't have to necessarily show up for a meeting or be here live. There were surveys, there were things that could be done electronically, Zoom meetings. There were all kinds of ways that we could get that, and you did an excellent job of doing that. And I think ultimately, again, as long as everybody understands that's working on this and passing this, that again, it's not their ideas, it's the community's ideas. We're going to have a really good product and a really good plan to go by.
As far as getting the word out there, I do want to thank Brian. I did bug him a lot with the red alerts and the Facebook posts, so thank you.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions?
I'll just say quickly, I think this is, I know the new board will be taking on a bridge and an incredible thing. This is easily the second most important thing after the bridge, I would say. So I just welcome the new board to really look into this. This is the perfect time for you to look at the draft, give your input on it, make sure it's something you're comfortable with pushing for the next 20 years. And I just want to make myself available to anyone that has any questions about it, because I think it is easily one of the most important things the new board is going to be confronting. So thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Anything else? Seeing nothing, we have a motion that the Grosse Township Board hereby approves to begin the required 63-day public review period and to authorize the distribution of the master plan draft to adjacent communities and relevant agencies. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very good. Let's get it out there and get it done. Thank you,
Hey, Ross.
Ross. No, Ross, you can stay. All right. Our added action item, we have a motion that the Grosse Township Board hereby approves the agreement of purchase and sale and joint escrow instructions for the Grosse Township Bridge, subject to final language approval by the Grosse Township Legal Counsel.
Support.
Thank you. I'm going to have Derek, you want to say anything about this?
Just that this whole, the whole toll bridge consideration has been a process. I guess I would say that this is the next step in the process. The voters, the electorate here within the township, voted in convincing fashion last night that they supported the purchase of the toll bridge through their 73% vote. So really, this is just the next step in that process, having the township receive that directive from the voters. This is a purchase agreement in order to bring the township and the toll bridge company into a binding agreement on terms and conditions. This is a draft, so it may change slightly, not necessarily in terms and conditions, but in verbiage. I know that the two legal entities, the one for the toll bridge and the one for Grosse Township, are still hashing out some verbiage, but that's why the motion is crafted as such.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, we have been working very, very hard on this issue, and I thank the voters of Grosse for, number one, coming out. We had over a 90% of our electorate voting, which is kudos to you. Thank you for taking the time and giving your input. And as Derek said, 73% approval of this. So thank you for that. And as big and important as this is, it is something that it's one step at a time. This is the next step. And we have a lot of work to do on this still, but we got to take it one step at a time. There is no jumping steps. There is no workarounds or anything. And if we do it and do it right, this is going to be one of the best things that ever happened to Grosse. I truly believe that.
Could I add something? Are we to that point?
We are, and you can be the first one.
Thank you so much. Chomping at the bit here, just to take a moment to thank our state representative, Jamie Churches, because if we look at this objectively, without her help getting that state legislature resolution bill in place that a township could actually own and operate a toll bridge, we would not be having this conversation today. And so that was one of the linchpin moments for the township. And as a young 2-year state rep, to get that through a bipartisan bill with the signature of a governor, I am just totally impressed and grateful, and I wanted to say thank you.
Very good, and that well deserved. We again, it was started with us doing our due diligence and knowing what we needed to do, going to Jamie, and she picked that up and did what needed to be done. You can't thank her enough for her help.
The residents of Grosse do owe her a great debt.
Other comments? Seeing none.
I did just
sorry.
have a question on timeline.
Yes.
I know it's not necessarily fixed, but so this gets voted on tonight. When does money exchange hands and like the township own the bridge?
We and jump in at any time, Derek. Well, I mean, now that the people approve that we can go out, we have to go out and get the money. This will tie us into, we are purchasing it, but the purchase, everything will not happen. We do not own this bridge yet. I want to make that perfectly clear. We do not own it yet. This will tie us down, but there's a lot that we have to do. We have to go out with the bonding and everything to get the funds, which, in fact, I will just mention that I know the overall was $59 million. We are not going out for $59 million. We're going out for something less, basically an amount of money to purchase the bridge and do engineering for our upgrades. I should also add that until this is all done, our non-disclosure stays in effect. And I will just add here that anybody that's on the board or that's been part of that non-disclosure, that stays with you even after November 20th, when you may leave the board. You're still under that non-disclosure order. There, until things are done, that's still in effect. So, although this is a step forward, and we are gonna obviously buy the bridge, we're not done yet. We don't own it yet, so we can't disclose things yet.
And, do you have a sense of timeline? I know we.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
More than likely, the first meeting of the new township board, which I think we're eyeing December 9th, quite possibly could be the first meeting. There'll be a resolution that'll go in front of the board at that meeting to authorize the bonding for the amount that's necessary for the purchase and the engineering. During that time period between December 9th and the end of the calendar year, bonding documentation will be put together with the plan to go to market in January. We've been advised by our bond counsel that there's a better chance for more attractive interest rates after the first of the year rather than prior to the first of the year. So more than likely, they will be sold in the month of January of 25, with closing on the bonds in the more than likely the beginning of February and a likely closing on the bridge by the middle of February. So that's the tentative schedule, subject to change.
Other comments or questions? Nope. All right. With that, we have a motion that the Grosse Township Board hereby approves the agreement of purchase and sale and joint escrow instructions for the Grosse Township Bridge, subject to final language approval by the Grosse Township's legal counsel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're going to buy ourselves a bridge. Very good. And that takes care of our action items for tonight. We move on to public comment. The usual 3 minutes, name and address. Do we have anyone? Yes, Kathy.
Thank you. You said you had 2.5 people per household. We've got about 4,200 households, is that correct? Okay. We had, last night we had 73% of our registered voters, and that was like 21,024, and that's without kids. So I started playing with the numbers. It seems like we must have,
what did you say? 21,000.
that's what the votes came, when you added up all the votes.
No, 73.
73%.
We had 7,980 people vote.
It was 5,300.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at something else,
Yeah.
because I
You're-
kept
I
saying,
think what
this
you're
makes
do-
no sense
Yeah,
to me.
what
What you're
Like,
doing is
okay.
Yeah.
you're adding up all the trustee votes.
Yeah.
And there's,
yeah.
there's
remember
four.
they
There's
That was
four.
it.
Everyone
They
gets
can
four
vote for
votes.
multiple
That's
people.
One
right.
person gets four
Thank
trustee
you,
votes.
because I was going,
Yeah.
how could we have that? It seemed wrong,
that's
but we
the-
do have 4,200,
They brought those buses in.
yeah. And abacuses. Okay, I just couldn't understand that.
For unopposed, that's really odd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah. If you divide that 20,000 by 4 or 3, you get to where you need to go. Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. With that, we have no discussion, so we will go to the clerk's report.
Supervisor. Didn't think this day would come so quickly after nearly 30 years, my last clerk's report. I'm very looking forward to this. The first thing, of course, I wanted to do was pay tribute to our unfortunately outgoing state rep, because she worked very hard on behalf of Grosse and all of the communities in her district. And so it's very sad to see that we will no longer have her assistance, and hopefully the new person will get up to speed really quick, and hopefully we'll have similar success. The next thing I want to do is congratulate our newly elected board members. And Michelle, I just wanted to reach out to you and say, the voters have spoken. You got the largest number of trustee votes. So all your fears, put them aside, listen to the voters, you'll be fine. Lastly, I want to pay a tribute to our clerk's office staff. I've worked with a number of deputy clerks in my career here, but without offending anybody, Brian tops that list. You've been amazing. I've loved working with you from the day when you were just a cub joining in here. We have a great election coordinator in Elena. You two work extremely well together. Imagine this is just a staff of two. And they brought in some very talented and helpful volunteers, but it remains a staff of two, and they do a boatload of stuff. Tate, Amy, and Gail, I wanted to thank them. Elections are always 90% in the morning, and at night you're going crazy, and then during the day it's like you're treading water. It's a kind of a marathon of sorts. I want to thank also all of our poll inspectors. It's a big team, and they all pull together. It's a long, brutal day, but their goal is accuracy, and I'm always incredibly proud at the number of citizens from all parties, all classes, all walks of life that come together to make our democracy shine. Our supervisor had given us an opportunity to write an article as well, and it's going to be in our November paper, but for those of you who are here, I just want to say it's been my great honor and my privilege to serve as your township clerk all these years. And I have learned a lot about people and politics and community and what makes a community thrive. And this has been a wonderful community to grow and live and thrive in. And I hope that that work continues with the new board. I have found that serving one's community as an elected official is not something you can take lightly. You may think it's easy just to sit and, pass judgment, make decisions, read some documents and all that. But there's a huge learning curve, as you will all find out. There's a lot that, as the general public, we don't know or even think about. And you will quickly find the reach and limitations of your positions. But the key is that you always remain good listeners, attentive to the people sitting out there, as I like to believe we have been. And never forget that you have an extraordinary team of professional staff and advisors who, to be honest, know a hell of a lot more than we do. And Derek, Teresa, Brian, Ross, the whole team of the staff, and all of our professional consultants. I can't say how careful you need to be in selecting those so that you get good, strong, impartial advice. And so I wish you all well, and do your best to serve us with justice and liberty for all. And stay strong.
Thank you. And thank you for all your years of service to Grosse. I appreciate it. I've served with you on this board for 8 years, and I know you've been around for a long time. But thank you. Treasurer's report.
Thank you. Well, one thing that doesn't change with the changing of the board is the taxes are still going to be mailed out the first week of December, and you'll receive your tax bills. If you use a mortgage company, they can request copies of the tax bill as well, so they can pay it out of your escrow account. Winter taxes are due February 14th, 2025. And if you qualify for a deferment, that will extend your due date to April 30th of 2025. And let's see, the next DPS commission meeting is November 12th. That's next Tuesday at 7 o'clock here in the boardroom. And the next Airport Commerce Park Commission meeting is on November 18th at 6 o'clock. And I'd also like to thank, the residents for the opportunity to serve as treasurer for the last 4 years. I want to thank the current board. There's been ups and downs, but I think everybody has tried to do the best they could over those 4 years. And congratulations to the incoming board. I wish them well. And my thanks also go out to all the commission members, the commissions. They work hard. And also a shout out with Ute to township staff employees. Regardless of what you do for the township, you're a valued employee, and I appreciate having worked with you over this time. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, David. Trustees reports. Mr. Bletcher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have the privilege of sitting on the Grosse Fire Commission as well as the Greenways Open Space Committee. The Fire Commission will have its next meeting on November 14 at 5 p.m. in this room. Regarding Greenways and Open Space, our next meeting will be in January. I do want to report on the Dump the Junk event that we had. This is truly a remarkable community event. I never would have thought 10 years ago that people getting together to clean out their garage and to empty out all those household things had become such a big event. We found during COVID that people had a lot more stuff that they wanted to get rid of, and we had 500 vehicles when we first resumed after COVID. This last time, we had 386 vehicles that came in. 2 30-yard dumpsters were filled with scrap metal for recycling, 17 30-yard dumpsters with yard waste, 30 tires. We had great coordination with Rotary for a shredding event. In speaking to the owners of Pure Data Services, Russ and Katie Chambers, they supplied information as follows. The event, the shredding event, and we're hoping to make this piggyback on with the Dump the Junk every year. We had 6,805 pounds of paper that were recycled, saving 58 trees in this event alone. It is an incredible number when you look at the amount of resources and energy that was saved, including 1,293 gallons of crude oil, 11.2 cubic yards of paper that is not in the landfills, 23,818 gallons of water that were conserved, and 13,950 kilowatt hours of energy that were saved just simply by recycling. This is really a tremendous program. And that paper was the equal of 225 reams of paper. Something to be very proud of and a great community event. I too have also enjoyed my time on the Township Board. I've met a lot of great people. I've been involved in government for 40 years on commissions and committees, and been involved in dozens of hirings and many dozens of committee members. And I thank each and every one of you, Kevin, and I congratulate you, Treasurer, Margaret. You're going to do a great job. You have a passion for it. Mickey, you've got the background. Bill Heil, you've got the heart for it. I think that's just tremendous. I'd also want to thank and wish the very best to Joe Porcerelli, Supervisor-elect. Joe, you and I have worked together for decades, and I think you're going to do well. you're going to do very, very well. And the same for Jameson. I think Jameson will do very well. And I think I've got everybody covered. I wish, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mark Mills. I saw Mark in the parking lot and congratulated him and took credit for being the vote that put him over the top. I do wish all of you well and the very best, because when you succeed, this community succeeds. I hope that you're able to work together and make this community just an absolute standout. And Greg, I thank you for all of the time and all the effort, and Kathy, that the two of you have put in, certainly in the last years, to help make this community better. You guys are great. You're really great. I want to indicate a couple of other things very quickly. This past election, and it was particularly pronounced on Facebook and all of the commercials, and thank God they're over. I don't know how you guys feel, but I am so happy to have my television back, at least part of it. There was so much complaints about government doing a terrible job, what a lousy job government does. We're not good at anything. I'd like everybody to take a look and understand that the buildings that surround you right now have been owned and operated by this township for 50 years. I'm a tenant down here and have been for 5 years. I see what wonderful things have happened here. I used to swim at the pool back in the 60s, and I learned how to swim, and all of the things that I've seen that have gone on with this wonderful airport. The election we just went through, they got it right. Government got it right. There were no problems. There were no hiccups. It's the first time we've had a long-range voting block like that. It went off without a hitch. There's complaints that government can't do anything right, that we're not going to be able to do the bridge. I think all of you and the officers that come in have a deep well of talent. You're going to make it work. You're going to find a way to make it work. So when you look at something like the wastewater treatment plant, people can say, we don't know what we're doing. That's a good example. It's a third-party operator. It's going to be similar to what you're going to have with the bridge. That fails never. The water is always there. I look at all the committees and commissions that were touched on earlier for all of the volunteer work. Ted Van Els said repeatedly that the backbone of this government, the commissions and the committees. And it's going to be all the people out there that support and volunteer for the events. I look at public safety as an example of what government does right. By God, we have been, for the last 15 years, cumulatively, the safest community in Michigan. There are chiefs in communities that would give their eye teeth to just have that once. We have had that on multiple events, and if you look at the last 15 years, it's been a phenomenal run. Fire department has 25 volunteers. I would stack them up against any other quote-unquote professional community. They are at over 800 calls this year, 24 hours a day, sometimes 2, 3, 4 calls at the same time. They do a terrific job. I also look at the employees that we have here. And Uta and Dave have touched on them. We have a lot of talent, an awful lot of talent here. You can look at the departments. Teresa's been here a year, and she has her head wrapped around township finance. If you have any questions, just stick your head in the door or pick up the phone, because she has answers. Joe, the same way. Joe, you've been in government township for 40 years, I think, as an employee and as a commission member, and certainly as chief. I don't think that we have anything better than the deputy clerk that sits in this room. Brian does a terrific job. I cannot recount the number of times going to Brian and saying, hey, Brian, can you help me with this? Can you give me some ideas about putting something on the agenda and what we should do? The person that I think in this room, however, has the most outstanding credentials is Derek Thiel. and I don't mean to hold him up to a higher plateau, but I have worked with a number of managers, both in government and out of government in my career. I've found nobody that is your equal. Nobody. And Derek, I honestly believe, and I'm putting out there the idea, that this community, this government, this board would not have been as well served and had the accomplishments and the confidence of the people with 73% without the input that you've had. You've made a heck of an impact. Back when you were managing the airport, you took that little sabbatical over to Gibraltar, and now you're back here home where you belong. You've been absolutely terrific. When I look at something like the dump the junk, it can't be done without people like Mark Facenhammer, just absolutely everywhere all the time. John Kime, who can make a backhoe sing like Jimi Hendrix played the guitar. And I think when you look at Donna Deppa organizing that all the time, it's a special time, it's a special event. One of the things that I want to leave you with is to caution. I had an absolute pleasure of going to Chattanooga a couple of weeks ago, and they have the Medal of Honor Center there for people that you're not giving them, you don't earn them, you receive them. It's an incredible experience to go in there. It was an incredible experience to walk up to the window and say, do we have anything special going on? Lady looks at me and says, if you get downstairs, you can go ahead and listen to a Medal of Honor recipient speak to a high school class. You sit there and you listen to what this man has to say. He talks about what he said were the 3 C's. Courage. Courage to stand up for what you think is right. Bill, I know you've served in the Marine Corps, and this is probably going to be very boring, but you have the courage to stand up and do the right thing. You have a second C for conviction. And conviction is to believe in what you do and understand what you're doing and why. Uta mentioned a huge learning curve. You guys are just getting started. The third thing that he mentioned that rung a bell was compassion. And that is compassion for the people that come here, that work here, that serve you, serve the community. Remember those 3 things. He said it has changed his life. I can guarantee this experience is going to change your life. In closing, I want to thank the community for 40 years of a great experience. This has been absolutely wonderful. I'll admit that some nights were better than others. Some nights were diamonds and some nights were coal. But I really, really, really appreciate all of the input. It takes a lot to come here in the winter. It takes a little bit of time you take away from your family. I wish each and every one of you nothing but the very best. Again, when you succeed, this community succeeds. God bless you and God bless Grosse. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Very well done. Joe.
Good evening. I sit on the Police Commission. We meet third Tuesday of each month, and we have not had, our meeting was canceled, unfortunately, between the last one here and this board meeting, so I have no report for that, but I just would like to comment on a couple things. Everything was well spoken. As Supervisor Budney said, I believe that I saw 90-some% turnout, and that's really incredible for an election. You went out. It is what it is. You voted your conscience, and I don't mean just this election here on Grosse or anything, but the state representative, all the other issues with the state, any other millages, and obviously the presidential election. So for Grosse to get out there, I was just really proud to see that they had a 90. I don't know if I've ever seen, maybe you guys, you've been here obviously a lot longer than I have. I don't know if I've ever seen a 90-plus turnout. I don't know if that's...
I think that is the largest
That might
we've
be-
had. I've seen, we've had them in the 80s.
Have you? Okay,
But,
yeah.
90 is just phenomenal.
I don't recall seeing that high of a turnout. So, congratulations to yourselves. And I also want to say we're not going to have a meeting. I spoke with Brian. We're not going to have another meeting in November unless something comes up. But we'll let you know. But our first meeting would be December 9th then. And I just want the people to know on December 9th, I'm going to schedule a study session, and we're going to have just a Cliff Note version of what the new board, because there is actually 5 new individuals, and all 7 positions are new, and from different people. So we're going to have just a Cliff Note version on that study session of what we're going to look forward to, what direction we'd like the township to go in, and what our plans are in the upcoming action items that we have to get things going. And I also want to say that Jim said it also about the bridge. It's going to be moving slowly, but it's moving. They're doing everything correctly. Yesterday, Derek and I met, and the entire meeting was bridge. What we're going to do, the bonding, what we have to do for the purchase agreement, what we move on from there to get a management group to oversee, obviously, the workers. I mean, we have to have workers on the bridge. So it was really a productive meeting that we had yesterday, and Jim's absolutely correct. It is moving. I mean, it's not slow. The plan is not slow. The timing might be slow to you, but it's moving as quick as possible. And you have to do it right. We're only going to get one chance at this. But I do thank everyone else, and I thank everyone else for the kind words. I don't want to repeat all the things that was stated, but I'm looking forward to sticking around here, and we have a lot to do, and the 7 of us are going to get it done. I promise you that. So thank you very much, and again, thank you for all the nice words that everybody has stated to the workers, the people we have here. We do have a good group, and we're just going to continue moving forward. So thank you. I'm good.
Thanks, Joe. Kyle.
Yes, I sit on the Planning Commission. We met on Monday to recommend what you all voted on today, so thank you for that. I'm glad that the master plan will be going out to everyone. The Planning Commission, I believe, wants to meet again in December, so be ready, whoever wants to be on the Planning Commission, to be there and to be ready to discuss the master plan. There's so many people to thank. Others have already spoke really well. I want to say first, thank you to really everyone on the board here, including Jameson, who's not here today. Obviously, I was appointed, and part of how I was appointed was the board here decided to appoint me, and I'm really grateful for that. I learned a lot from it. I feel like I contributed, and I know even if I'm not on the board, I'm going to be able to take what I learned here and still be able to be a very productive and be able to do a lot of good as a resident. And so I thank everyone who has put time into help me learn, develop, and I extend that to the staff. I agree with everything everyone said. The staff here at the township is incredible. This isn't a staff that just does the work and goes home. They care about this community. They work hard for it, and are talented at it, and in many different ways that others have spoken about. I want to speak a little bit about the campaign. I was appointed, so I didn't have to campaign like all of you. I'll be honest. I was worried about it in a lot of different ways, especially the way I ran. When I decided to make a life here, I knew Grosse was a Republican community, and I've respected it in that way. And I was worried, honestly, running as a Democrat. Would Republicans understand the respect that I have for this community and its values? And what was amazing to me is I did. I felt that back. I got a lot of Republican support that I'm very, very grateful for. We obviously went through a very divisive national election, and it's strange. I don't feel that locally. I don't feel that division here. There are issues, as there is in any community. There are things that people are angry about, but Grosse as a community feels very strong through things like the 90% turnout we saw, through things like the 70% vote for the toll bridge. Democrat, Republican, so many other things that you can divide yourselves by. There's a clear, strong community here that loves this place, that wants to preserve it, and will work towards that if you give them ways to do that. So I'm excited to continue to do that sort of thing. I think the day before, I took a long time to write it, but the day before the election, I finally wrote out things I felt like a new board or needs to confront, and I realized a lot of it I'll be able to contribute to on my own outside of the board. And I say that not just to, say that that's something I can do, but I say that to all the residents out there that often are saying, board, do this, board, do that. It's, as a resident, you can do so much, I got to say, The one thing that I am concerned about, I mentioned, is this master plan. Not because I feel like the board's not going to do well at it, but I just think there's it's really hard to see the urgency in doing this well. You could see in the chart that was up there that shows what happened the last time the master plan was implemented. It went from hundreds of houses in the 90s to like just a few houses right after that when the master plan was implemented. I'm not saying we go back to the construction of the 90s. I want to be very clear about that. That was one bad thing that happened in the campaign. There was a rumor that I wanted to bulldoze open space and put up low-income housing. No, that's not what I'm arguing for. What I am arguing is we need to do better to allow people to do more with the land that they have. And allow younger folks to come here and older folks to age in place. There are many ways to do that without having to use new land. You can use the land that you already have. And so I again, whoever's on the planning commission, I encourage you to really read up and get involved pretty quickly, because there's some important stuff that's going to be decided the next few months. And I'm here to support in whatever way that I can, as I know Ross and many others are. But yeah, so it's been an amazing run for me, and to state some of the things that I will be doing as a resident and did before I was on the board. I'm going to continue to fight for the environmental protection of Grosse and downriver communities around here. The work continues. The Army Corps is meeting here on Monday. They've promised Grosse a lot of things that they have not given us. So I will be there as I guess I'll still be a board member, but
Wednesday.
Is it Wednesday next week? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Wednesday next week. They've promised us things that they have not given us, so I will be there. I guess I still will be a board member, but obviously outgoing. And yeah, there's things at the federal and state level I think that can be achieved and pushed for too. So I look forward to working with the new board to try to achieve those things. And I will end there. Thank you all.
Thank you, Kyle, and thank you for your service on the board. Yeah, go ahead, Uda.
Kyle, I wanted to say specifically to you, actually, I was also appointed. Thank you for stepping up when you did. And it was a big step for you. You have young children. You have a new family. You have work. But you accepted the challenge. And I appreciate that you have been a cautious and reasonable and rational voice on the board. And you approach things differently than, say, I do, and that is a good thing to have on a board. We don't want groupthink, because you have often helped me see a different side of something that I would not have seen otherwise. So I personally want to thank you for stepping up when you did. It was also a tough time when you put your head in the noose, in the ring to be appointed. And you have served very, very well. And I, as a resident and as another outgoing board member, really appreciate your service.
And sorry, that does remind me, there's one more thing I do want to say, actually, and that's something that I've learned that I'd like to say to other board members here. You're really only as good as 4 people that you can convince, If you can't do that, you can sit there and make a point, which sometimes I've done, and I'm grateful for y'all when I've done that. But if you can't do that, you're not any good. So there's going to be a lot of reasons to be unhappy with other people up here, and I'd say look for the reasons that matter, that you can work on, so that you are trying to get to that 4-vote consensus on things. And I learned, I think, a little bit too late, that's true for commissions too. If you can't convince 4 people on a commission, even as a board member, you're in bad shape too. So that's my biggest lesson I give to you all is look for that consensus where you can, because without it, you're not able to achieve very much.
Thank you. Mr. Thiel, if you would, please.
Very quickly, yes. Thank you all for everybody's comments this evening. Just a quick few items. I've always been a firm believer that the effectiveness of the government body and the local government to be able to address community needs is dependent heavily upon the ability of the board to work together. And it doesn't mean you always necessarily have to agree on everything. And this board hasn't, but you guys do work together, and you work to solve problems and build that consensus that Kyle had just mentioned. So I do want to give and express to you a special thanks for all of you, those staying on and those that are outgoing, for the work that you've put in to be able to do that on behalf of the residents of Grosse. Those that are leaving, it's been a pleasure to work with you. Those that are still here, I look forward to working with you. I think we're going to be able to accomplish a lot, and I'm excited for that. Congratulations to those that are newly elected. Really look forward to the opportunity to work on some very rewarding projects in these next 4 years, and congratulations, and thank you for your willingness to serve, because it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's thankless. So thank you for putting yourselves out there and essentially volunteering for the positions that you were elected to. Well, I do want to thank the clerk's office for the election. As Uta had mentioned earlier, you guys did a phenomenal job. Every comment I received was positive about how the election went. The hours that were put in were obscene. I think Brian didn't leave Township Hall for, I think it was like 17 days straight. So, really thanks to the clerk's office for the work that you guys did and how well you did with the election. And I just wanted to mention, lastly, the Township Hall will be closed next Monday for Veterans Day. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Derek. Well, lots been said tonight, and I don't want to belabor anything, but I do want to start by congratulating the new board. I've been on this board for 12 years, and I can remember back in 2012 when I first got on. And you're excited, and you want to do things. I would simply caution you to take the time to learn. There is a whole lot of learning to be done. You need to learn how Grosse does things. Believe me, you do not know how, and I'm talking about the township, you do not know how they do things. Please learn how they do it, and then why they do it that way. It is not just pulled out of the air, we're going to do it this way. There's reasons behind it, and you may look at it and think, we can do this better. Well, you may find out that, no, this is how we have to do it. So take that time. It'll serve you very well. But I wish you all the luck in the world. I think you guys will do a good job. And I would also say your outside communities that surround you, as well as Wayne County, they are your allies. They are not your enemies. And they can help Grosse a lot. Treat them as such. So the best of luck to all of you. And again, thank you, as I'll echo what Derek said, thank you for stepping up. I little jealous that you guys had to run pretty much unopposed and not have to go through that, which is just another thing. Probably the most thankless job, part of that job is that running. So, but good for you. And then, gosh, I got a million thank yous, which I am not going to go through. But I just want to actually mention three people, and that's not to say anyone else of our staff was not important. I'll tell you, it was a joy to come in here every day and work with these people. They are great people. They do their job, and they're wonderful to be with. But I especially want to thank Brian Friel, who, despite what you might think, is really fun to work with. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian, for all you do, and you guys will learn how much this guy does. Thank you, Brian. I've enjoyed working with you for 12 years, but especially these last 4. And I would certainly be remiss if I didn't mention Margie Gape. Margie and I every day, and Margie was a great help to me, as she is to everybody. But I truly enjoyed working with her. And Margie, if you're out there with your glass of wine in your garage watching this, thank you for everything. And I say this with all sincerity. Most of all, I have to thank Derek. Derek and I mean, we talked all the time, we bounced ideas off, which is a wonderful thing to do for me. I come in with an idea, I want to know that opposite view. I want to know, okay, what am I missing? And I could always rely on him to give me straight, honest answers. And we could walk out of those meetings where we were headed in the right direction. And on top of that, Derek's just a wonderful person. And Derek, I thank you very much. And the whole staff, obviously, the whole staff is, like I said, is wonderful. I couldn't believe, as we got to this point and thinking that, okay, this is going to be the last meeting, I hadn't realized, I hadn't even thought about the fact that I have actually been on committees, commissions, or 12 years on the board. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I'm sorry, almost 30 years. I shouldn't say over, almost 30 years. And time gets away from you, and you don't realize how much you have done. And for people who say they don't have time, yes, if you get on a committee, commission, or you run for the board, you're making time. You're taking your time away from other things that you could be doing to do this. But having gone to high school here, and then ultimately moving here and raising my family, it has been my honor to serve this community. And I am very thankful for the residents of Grosse electing me 3 times, and I just want to say thank you. And with that, for the last time of this board,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for watching.